Welcome to Arts and Entertainment Ministries. Today I want to address a common question for Christians wanting to pursue a career in the arts or media. And the question is this: how do I know this is my calling? To be honest, asking this question can be tremendously helpful or terribly paralyzing, depending on how you approach it. For many years, people divided the idea of callings into two categories, either a spiritual calling or a secular calling. And this elevated the calling of a pastor or missionary above every other job. Evangelism and worship were seen as the only serious calling on a person's life. And from that approach, artists were told the only place they can use their art is for worship, advertising for the church, or to make documentaries of the church mission trip. You see, sadly, we lost the sense of dignity in all other kinds of work. From mothers raising their children to businessmen and women inventing new technology, and then to artists who work and influence people in the mainstream culture, who ended up glamorizing certain jobs and demeaning others. But the reality is this: the Bible never makes such a distinction. And this perspective has caused a lot of confusion. Now sure, people are called to full-time ministry, and that's great. But the doctor curing diseases is also glorifying God. So is the teacher who's educating people. We don't live with this hierarchy. The Bible tells us all Christians are part of the priesthood of all believers. Whether you work in the church or in a studio, we still strive to be salt and light wherever God calls us. So we need to take a minute and clarify further what is meant by calling. First, as a Christian, your primary calling is to follow Christ and become more like Him. No matter what job or relationship you are in, you should be asking, how can I honor Christ through this job or relationship? God doesn't call you to marry a non-Christian, have an affair, or work in a job that is deceptive or takes advantage of people. Second, if you're married or have children, your calling is to love your family as Christ loved the church. We can't run off on some great mission and neglect our families. If that's what your career is demanding, then you need a new career. God doesn't call us ever to sacrifice our families or our marriage on the altar of our career. Third, all of us are called to love others through the way we live and the work we do. This is where we begin to consider what types of jobs and careers might really be a fit for us. On this third level, there's a lot of room to explore, so it's good to remember some key distinctions. First, don't expect God to speak from a burning bush or use some miracle to tell you your calling. While the Bible gives examples of people like Moses and Jonah who heard a very specific calling directly from God, most of us will not experience anything like that. Those passages are exceptional, not intended to be the standard. Moses and Jonah, or even Samuel who was sleeping, were clearly not looking for God to speak to them, and God found them just fine. For most people, it will not be a clear voice from heaven. Instead, they will have a broader sense of calling discovered through the passions and talents God gave them. While some may have a passion for curing a disease or adopting orphans, others will be passionate about running a business, or teaching students at college. And this sense of purpose can be broad or specific. And it can change as we grow through various seasons of life. This kind of calling doesn't require a spiritual aha moment, but usually can be discovered through your desires, your talents, and it is essential to include the feedback of those who know you well. Second, we need to make the distinction between vocation and avocation. Some of our desires may be met through our career or full-time job, but some desires will not be met through our day-to-day work, and they will need to be satisfied through places we volunteer, or hobbies we pursue, or ministries where we get involved during the evenings or on the weekends. Third, we must be patient and remember that we live in a fallen world. We will have desires and passions for good things that we simply cannot pursue because of the fall. In heaven, we'll be able to fully develop our talents and pursue our desires the way God intended, but not for now, which means we can't get hung up or stay in a holding pattern until we find the perfect job to work at or the perfect ministry where we can volunteer. Make a difference where you can, find the job where you can use most of your gifts, and go from there. So to summarize these points, how do you determine your calling? First, love Jesus and strive to become more like Him. Second, love your family and those for whom you are responsible. Third, examine your talents and passions, get feedback from people in your life. Fourth, ask whether you can make a living at this, or is it more of a personal passion or a hobby on the side? And fifth, don't get all bothered if it doesn't work out perfectly and then start to question everything. Make the best decision you can with the information you have and go for it. Remember, God will be with you no matter what. Oh, and one other point. Once you have determined where you feel called, it's really important to take the time and count the cost. Get training, figure out the time and resources necessary, and be wise about how you pursue it. So go back to our original question. Are you called to be an artist? Do you have the talent, skill, and temperament? Do you have the time and resources? Could you still love your family and care for them while pursuing this calling? Does being an artist fit with the feedback you get from family, friends, and people in your church community? If you said yes to all of these questions, then get the right training, hone your craft, and create excellent art that resonates with your faith in Christ. God does have a plan for your life, and He invites you to discover it through the people and talents you already have. Sometimes it's obvious, other times it can be surprising. But once you discover your calling, work at it with all your strength and ability as an offering to God who gave you those talents. Whether you become a great artist, a teacher, businesswoman, or even a patron of the arts, follow the calling God has for you and enjoy the journey. You don't need a lightning bolt from heaven, and you don't need to keep second guessing. Pursue the path that makes sense right now, get advice, and make adjustments as needed. Enjoy the journey and become all that God designed you to be. If you enjoyed this video, remember to subscribe and check out our website in the comments section below.